For those of you that don't know you, can you introduce yourself and your role at the Lunz Group?
So my name is Brad Lunz. I'm CEO of the Lunz Group. It's one of a few companies that I run that are at the intersection of art, science, and technology.
Okay. Well, how long have you been CEO of Lunz Group?
Oh, geez, that's post-COVID. It's hard to answer that question because time becomes a piece.
Okay.
I've been there since 2008, and I believe I took leadership in 14,
Okay.
12 maybe. Yes, I don't remember that.
Always in Lakeland, or how's it turned into Lakeland?
So my dad founded the firm in '87. I came over during the recession. I left another company I was at, Equity Track, and realized a balanced portfolio was the way to go. And then took over leadership a few years later. The work we do, we are Lakeland based, but we've done work in 32 states in the District of Columbia.
Okay.
We have a couple of offices through Florida, but nothing outside of Florida as an office yet.
And what's the focus of the Lunz Group for what kind of projects you pick up, or?
So we have really 6 markets,
Okay.
and the markets that are strong right now, we've got a really big vertical in public safety. So sheriff administration offices, support facilities for law enforcement, fire stations, support for government entities,
Mm-hmm.
like a National Guard hangar, which then is another vertical, which is aviation. So we do a lot of aviation, MROs, hangars, advanced manufacturing that supports that. We've got a logistics and distribution
Mm-hmm.
vertical as well. We have an office, so we do corporate office, workspace, and that kind of bleeds into a mixed use. So we do some multifamily, and then we have a recreation amusement portfolio as well.
All right. Nice. My next set of questions, I want to talk about project delivery and collaboration.
Yes.
So at Nelpro, we focus on projects and project management. And but I want to hear, in your experience, what makes a smooth and successful handoff on a project between design and then in construction? And maybe walk through a little bit of those that don't know that typical process from your type of firm and then in the field construction.
So, and when we use the phrase handoff, it feels like it's a handshake where you're just passing a baton. And if we're really looking at this collaboratively, it's not a baton pass. There's a transition that occurs over a long period of time. As since probably about 2018, construction industry has changed where it's no longer here is my role, here is your role, but it's a lot more blurred lines because we have a lot more information and detail that all of us can share. So a smooth transition to construction is really having the contractor on the front end. Uh, time, time of procurement and sourcing drives a lot of design decisions. So when we look at it, what's the lead time for fire hydrants? I mean, that was 18 months was at one point was a lead time for a fire hydrant.
Wow.
So what are we doing to get in front of that? So looking at design is not 3D, but really 4D and 5D.
Mm-hmm.
So time and the economics simultaneously. So we need to have the contractor, the CM at risk on board during that design process.
Do you think that that's the most crucial part is setting that up beforehand and having the vendors and construction team members readily available?
Yes, having the stakeholders at the table over the initial piece where we are working with a client and helping them realize what their program is
Mm-hmm.
as a building in a conceptual level isn't as critical to have the trades involved, but having the CM that has more of a 30,000 foot view of what's occurring is important to have right about design development. So once we get past schematic, which is really just having a floor plan, here are the adjacencies, and here's what it's going to look like, we start to get into building systems, because as we start designing those systems and we're engineering and we're making decisions, is it going to be a pre-engineered metal building? Is it going to be conventional block and joist? Are we looking at pre-engineered metal trusses? Having that CM, we're understanding what the economics we're building to are,
Mm-hmm.
as well as then what is the timing? Because if steel shapes are coming off the or coming out of the mills that won't meet our needs for another 5 weeks, is that really going to get us that schedule we're trying to achieve? Because that project is what we're all focused on.
Okay.
So from that perspective, it's understanding and bringing those people in earlier.
Okay. I could see that. Another, how early do you prefer to bring in your project management or even schedule support on a project? So if you're awarded a project, when do you start to bring those teams in?
I'll use a very recent example. We kicked off a new project yesterday. Our first deliverable is a schedule.
Okay.
So the answer is immediately. Setting an expectation of time
Mm-hmm.
is critical to the success of a project.
Do you think that's what's made the Lunz Group so successful? Is managing the timeline so accurately?
Managing expectations accurately,
Okay.
yes. Timeline, and there's things that are outside your control. Like you don't know what tariffs are going to do and what's
Yeah.
going to impact. You don't know how elements are. But if we talk about what those external events could be,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand that, and we set a path toward completion, then that's what's made us successful.
Wow. All right. What's an example of a project where tight coordination between design and scheduling made a real difference? So those two forces, how did they combine and turn your project to be successful?
So NOAA Aircraft Operations Center, when they first moved here to Lakeland, we were given, and I think it's proper to say, a Herculean task. We were awarded the project in Thanksgiving, right at the week after Thanksgiving. We had to design and build an 80,000 square foot hangar and renovate 100,000 square feet of interior space. And it had to be turned over by hurricane season the following year.
Holiday and
So you're taking what would
Yeah.
traditionally be a build of 12 months, 14 months, in a design cycle going through GSA of 7 months, and now compressing it into 8 months of delivery.
Wow.
So this required us to really embrace different methodologies. So rather than design something, have someone price it, it was sitting down with the steel fabricator saying, okay, we're on board. What steel shapes are coming out of the mill that you can buy right now? And let's design a slip critical truss that allows us to get the facility. Now, all the time we have a budget, so that it's not like, oh, we have to do it fast and we can spend endless amount of money. No, we just had to look at creative solutions that allowed us to procure those pieces. So it was a series of early starts, if you will.
Okay. Yeah.
So you release, I mean, there were so many different packages, but it was really rooted in communication with the contractor, the owner, the tenant, to make that happen.
Okay. So you're able to succeed in an undesirable situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's undesirable. It's just something I wouldn't want to do every day.
Yeah. Okay. All right. These next few are about project management and scheduling. From your perspective, what role does project scheduling play in keeping architectural vision realistic and on track? So, to me, scheduling is very analytical, and I'm looking at specifics. But from your side with architectural vision, how do those align?
So with scheduling is, so there's two sides to that. Scheduling, oftentimes the art side of the brain just wants to keep designing and designing and designing, and it's like this asymptote you're trying to achieve. You're never going to hit 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point you got to pick the pencil up. Schedule forces that time frame to compress and to look at and say, okay, here's our end date, so you've got to put in all the effort now. On the other side, schedule sets realistic expectations of what you can use as materials. So if you've got a curtain wall system that is going to take 4 months to get, or this color glass has been very difficult to source, what are you doing to really keep that creative vision the same and look at alternative products? So having someone check from an analytical standpoint and say, is this achievable in this time frame? Yes. If it's not, what are our options?
Do you battle with the heart of being a designer and then the maybe the force realistic? Hey, we can't do that because of a procurement. Is that a struggle that you see?
No, it's actually it's a benefit because it, if you sit at a table and you've got all the options in the world, you get kind of caught up on these are the pieces that you could do. And then you're just sitting selecting and rather than having all of these conditions and say what's the solution we can come up with, because the elegance is really in the understanding of what can be achieved,
Okay.
not sitting here dreaming of what can't be.
Okay. Oh, nice. How do you approach managing timelines and expectations with clients, especially on complex and phased projects?
First and foremost, transparent communication.
Okay.
You, you if something is going to occur, when is it going to occur? Not and sharing and being open about that. The schedule is something that's talked about at every meeting.
Yes.
So, and rather than the next part to that is don't use schedule to create conflict. Use schedule as a tool to keep us on track and then to encourage what decisions need to be made. We do something called the decision tree.
Mm-hmm.
So to help with understanding what we need to do, we set priorities for a project.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a wish list. It's your needs, your wants, and you're really like, I would love to have this. So what's our prioritization? So as we look at something, we understand where does it sit within our priorities. So we take that emotional component out of it, and we've taken and we've formulated what's going to occur, and here's that schedule, and we run into a roadblock. Rather than have that deep emotional, oh my God, what the heck are we going to do?
Yeah.
Hey, what are our options?
Okay.
And then and that's the other piece. If we run into a schedule problem, we just don't say we've got a schedule problem. It's come to a meeting where you have a problem and present a variety of solutions.
Okay. And the schedule is just a tool to help facilitate.
And a schedule is absolutely a tool to help.
Great. Speaking of tools again, have you seen any tools or processes that really have moved the needle in terms of project predictability or efficiency? So, maybe starting out in your early days, how are we either improving or maybe making things a little more difficult with tools and technology when it comes to being more efficient?
The integration of the design tools are really pushing a lot more collaborative in terms of that ownership of the model. So, I started where people were still hand drafting. So we learned hand drafting initially, and then AutoCAD's coming on, which is just lines, and then got 3D, and now we're really building a digital twin. We're building something that's not just 3D, it's 4D and 5D. So we're applying time and cost to that model. And it's not something that we just own. So the contractor, the owner, we're all looking at that. So then subs can start to take a piece of that. So what's happening is we're utilizing and building that digital component. So we're seeing that the tie back to opportunities for where estimation can go, the tiebacks to schedule. There's a lot that can be done. Now, is it always used? No, because we default back into I'm going to create a schedule on Excel, and it's like you're not even using project. So,
were you able to see when BIM came in the process and how that changed?
Yeah, and it's intriguing because BIM's a database, and it shifted my industry.
Wow.
My industry, it used to be about communication of design ideas on a print of paper, and now we're in the data business.
That's when I went to school for drafting, that's where we started. So it's interesting to see. I learned from CAD and BIM. I never hand drew anything because that was just the age when I started. how has that transition, with do you miss the days of really getting involved in drawing and having that, or has this new technology just really changed how it's all approached?
There's still the level of drawing. Do I miss detailing bathrooms? No. Do I and doing tile patterns? Not
Yeah.
not as much. The It was funny, yesterday at lunch we had a conversation. I was talking to one of our interns who's in her third year, and school still promotes traditional drawing first,
Okay.
and that to me is one of the positive aspects of the traditional, because when you learned when you drafted with pen and paper, you had to make very intentful decisions.
Hmm.
You had everything mapped out. You had your cartoon set. There's been that piece where AutoCAD and BIM have really let people just say, okay, here, we'll just throw it on a sheet.
Yeah.
And instead of being thoughtful about how we communicate those drawings as a set into permit or into construction documentation, having that paper background is important.
Okay. I like that. Um, Going on to challenges and solutions, what are some of the biggest challenges you face when transitioning from design to execution, and how do you track those either challenges or resolutions?
So and getting back to your question about handoff, the handoff really is then who's in the leadership position
Mm-hmm.
within the meetings. So early on, design team is leading the owner through that with the contractor participatory. And then we move into construction, where then it's the contractor with the owner there, and then the design team participatory. And oftentimes the challenge is in how a business dynamic is approached by the contractor. If it truly is collaborative, we have very little challenges. The challenges become how to overcome an unforeseen or an unknown condition, and then we all work together. If the dynamic is a hard bid where they're looking to really dig into and then create an adversarial position, that's where a lot of tension is created in a project.
Mm-hmm.
So if we come in and we realize and frame ourselves that the project is greater than any three sitting at this table, owner, architect, or contractor, then we're going to be in a successful position. If we think that because I'm sitting in the lead seat, that as design team I have the primary, or as owner I have the primary, and owner always has primary, but they've hired two people and the contractor comes in and says, like, I know best, then we've really missed the opportunity to learn something.
Okay.
And so coming as a collective and seeing that project as the primary is going to allow you to overcome a lot of the challenges that you see.
Is that hard to express that mentality when you're in that type of environment? So if construction company says one thing, owner says another, how do you all come together and really get the project accomplished?
So, and it goes back to earlier, what were our priorities?
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes, you've got a 2-year duration. You sometimes forget the decisions that were made a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So by keeping accurate records and saying, here's what we did, and do it without pointing fingers and saying, hey, you said this. I mean, come on. You approach it instead of, hey, we made these decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look back, these are the decisions we made, and this is why we made the decisions. It helps de-escalate any sort of emotional buildup that occurs.
Okay. What advice would you give a project manager or scheduler who's trying to improve their collaboration with design teams?
It's the same advice I'd give the design team collaborating with the project scheduler. You're given 2 ears and one mouth. Use one twice as much as the other.
Good.
Because the scheduler is going to tell the design team a lot of information that we can learn from and design toward.
Mm-hmm.
The scheduler is going to learn a lot about what the design team's doing and can start to schedule around how a designer works.
Okay. I could see working with that team and kind of scheduler sometimes doesn't know every aspect of what they're scheduling because they're scheduling a lot of different things. But working with a team that's willing to give feedback, I think, is crucial, especially not knowing how to design certain aspects, but getting that feedback, I think, is tremendous.
And that's a big thing is when we ask questions. If we're asking questions that are genuine in the curiosity and devoid of being pointed toward a direction, we really will get a positive response. And it's how that intention is framed. But if I'm coming in because I want to back you into a corner,
Yeah,
it's never going to end well either way.
I could see that. On to continuous improvement. How does the Lunz Group incorporate feedback from the field to future designs or project planning?
So we do pre-mortems and post-mortems.
Okay.
So you do a project kicked off. What have we learned from other pieces, and what are potential problems we could foresee? So understanding that feedback and applying it to the next project. But then it's also being retrospective and saying, what could have we done better? What are some lessons learned? And then apply that.
Is it a technique you use on every project? You're always taking this feedback?
We're always taking feedback. Do we formalize it on every project? Not always, because it's something I would love to say we do.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm striving to, and it is a goal.
Yeah. Again, on lessons learned, what have some past projects have reshaped how you approached either timelines or phasing that really stick out that you learned?
That's a hard one because it's which one and
how
because you learn a lot from each project, and it's intriguing because the industry, you come out of school, you think you can conquer the world, and all of a sudden you're hit with, oh my God, it takes 2 years to do this. So it takes you 2 years to learn some lessons. And sometimes then it's not even for 3 years after post-occupancy that you realize some decisions that were made.
Okay.
And it's that feedback post-occupancy that's really beneficial too. So it's understanding where the sub market is. It's understanding how to communicate things to the subs. It's the GC so that they can scope it a little better. What are the early start packages that can really get in front of stuff? How can we help control costs by releasing certain things without creating an undue burden on stopping and pulling up pencils at each phase?
Seems like being organized seems to be a key to, you've mentioned all sorts of aspects within the project. So I think that clear communication and being organized seems like a key there. Talking about the future and a little bit of closing here, where do you see opportunities for tighter integration between architecture and project controls like what Nelpro does in the future?
Ties back to our database. If we can have if we're building a building digitally, where can we start applying time as a data set within there to understand where those pieces come? Integration and really making a project rather than having disparate pieces that sit. So having you at the table with us collectively early on is important.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, I do better early on, even if we're, when we bid a project, even if we bid it, I'd rather be on a project part-time early on to get that continuous conversation. I don't want to be thrown into the lion's den and have to, put the schedule together so fast. I personally really like that early communication. Let's just talk about what's going on, get familiar with the project team, what some lessons learned are. That's huge for us. With firms like Nelpro, what do you think is the most valuable thing we can bring to the table?
The ability to set realistic expectations on when things can be done,
Okay.
and integration of that, as well as the ability to compress schedule the overall duration by understanding that critical path could be different than what you see.
Do you think too much information is overwhelming at times when it comes to project controls?
Initially, yes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's one where your job is difficult, because in order for you to provide a thorough solution, you can't just give an executive summary. It's going to take 180 days.
Yeah.
You can do that, but you have to show, here are the three linchpins, and then break it down and come forward and then build out that information. I think the amount of detail. So what are there two types of people? Those that just want to know the time, but when I ask you the time, I'm really curious how you built the watch.
Okay.
So it's there. So you have to address it to
Yeah.
both people, because you're going to have the different types, or a blend of those types,
Uh-huh.
where it's not just the time, but how did you get there? How did you,
Yes.
so that we can help look at it as well, because it's when it's no different than a bid. You look at a bid for a project, it's like, okay, where are the costs? And
Mm-hmm.
you always look at the lump sum, but then you look at division breakdown, and then you start to look at where are all the pieces, because did we catch all the scope? Did we catch everything?
Okay. Good. And then any final thoughts on what makes a project team truly work?
It's the composition.
Okay.
If you put the wrong team together, you'll never succeed.
Okay. So all about teams, and how do you go about finding the right teams? Is it all just we try someone and see how that goes, or how do you get a good team?
It's you fail forward,
Yeah.
but it's also the ability to come in and make the change.
Okay.
It's midstream. If you have to make a change, you make a change. It's what's best for the project.
Okay.
Overall, it's you understand early on if someone's aligned with the project goals, with the values that the other team members have.
Mm-hmm.
Are they really going to add to this mosaic
Mm-hmm.
and to help create the picture we need to paint? But the switch to group was a critical piece. I debated whether it be a studio, whether it be a collaborative. Like there's so many
Yeah.
different ways to approach it. And what we do are group projects.
Okay.
We do group things, whether it's internally having a group, which implies that there is no set leader throughout the duration, that we all take a leadership, we all take a role, we all value each other as equals sitting at a table, having a place to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And by understanding our role as leaders collectively and guiding, it frames how we deliver our projects.
Okay.
And that in turn allowed me to create a culture guide that spoke to what our culture is within the organization.
Where do you think you got that insight from? Was that you passed people that you've looked at as a leader, or anything that you've seen that's how I want to present myself as a leader?
I mean, 2008 was really impactful.
Okay.
When you look at it, my generation of architects, we were disposable.
All right. Wow.
The recession came. And they said, "Okay, you guys are the 5 to 10 year experience. We're going to keep the cheap ones, and we're going to keep the ones that have all the institutional knowledge."
Mm-hmm.
And so you're missing the middle of this gap. And so a lot of my peers left the profession.
Wow.
And knowing that we need to embrace all different perspectives within design,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we do this, it was starting to say, okay, it was painted by negative, it was painted by positive, it was painted through life experiences outside of architecture.
Yeah.
It was just understanding that we build things, and then part of it was getting to what my true personal feelings are.
Mm-hmm.
And our role is, and our vision of our organization is to cultivate communities.
Okay. Wow.
It's not about this lasting legacy of we are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's making the world better one step at a time.
That's great. Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. If anyone wants to know more about you or the Lunz Group, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find you?
Lunz.com.
Lunz.com.